In the last video, I talked about the fact that there has been billions of dollars thrown into data storage alone, but another several billions, or at least $1 billion, have also been thrown into data ingestion. In particular, a lot of EL or ELT type tools have gained a lot of funding support from various VCs over the last year or so. Fivetran in total has raised nearly $1 billion with a $565 million funding round coming last year. Again, we talked about Airbyte's $150 million. Also, Tano's $4.2 million, which honestly, compared to the rest of this, seems like chump change, as well as Matillion's $100 million. And those are just some examples. Not even to bring up the fact that Informatica, I believe, went public last year and is probably worth billions at this point. But all of these companies have a lot to do, at least with some level or another, with data ingestion, or what we often call things like data pipelines, which is an important part of your data infrastructure, especially when you're talking about batch data processing, as most of these tools kind of try to manage that aspect of things, of having batch process data from point A to point B. So that's where we are going to dive into today in terms of my baseline data stack is batch data processing, and talk a little bit about the design patterns that go into batch data processing. But we're going to focus more on understanding the baseline components of data pipelines, as well as the considerations and challenges you'll face when you build a data pipeline. But let's start with the why. Why is it so important that we build these data pipelines? And the answer often is we need to kind of centralize all this data into a data warehouse. Now, many of us first experience for what we could call a data pipeline or an ETL was either probably something like SSIS, or maybe just a bash script that ran at midnight and we kind of clunkily put together some dependencies by just guessing how long each job would take and giving like a 30-minute grace period in between. Of course, so many of us got so tired with that, we created a bunch of startups that now have billions in funding, but that leads to a whole new problem, which is which data tool do you pick? Because at the end of the day, a lot of the EL portion of the ELT has been commoditized. But let's put tools aside for this video and focus more specifically on, again, the ELT, the ETL, and all of these other concepts in data pipelines. In particular, I'm going to focus more on the ELT because that tends to be what I see a lot of people doing these days, whether that's because they believe theoretically they will get to data faster, or because that's just how tools are structured. It does seem to be a popular design pattern that arguably does get raw data to you faster, but you still will need to take time to implement the T. So don't think you get rid of the transformation and cleaning layer. That still exists. So guys, we got to start with the E. E for extract. And yeah, I know it sounds a little bit like Sesame Street, but basically the point of this step is to pull data or extract data from different sources like APIs. You might also have it from a database. In some cases, people consider SFTPs kind of a similar source, although generally I feel like the extract in that case has occurred at the original source where people have actually pulled it for you on an external partner and maybe they sent it to you via SFTP, but some people also consider that a source, as well as in other cases, people might be scraping websites. So it's not necessarily extract and more of a scrape. The point is all of this involves pulling data from some sort of source. But it's not that simple. It's not as simple as just saying, hey, pull this data from a source. There are other considerations you need to consider before extracting data. And you as a data engineer need to ask your business partners some key questions in order to figure out how will you actually create this pipeline. So here are some considerations you need to think of before you build your data pipeline, even starting with the extract. Now, first, your question should arguably be around what data is required. This is very important because a lot of systems that you're going to be pulling from have hundreds of fields, sometimes in a single table, many of which may or may not be even supported, some of which might have data that's erroneous or bad, or maybe just are more of a default setting, and so there's no point in pulling it. And the problem is this is also mixed in with the very valid data on that table. So your first step is often trying to figure out what data will be required. Once you have a general understanding of what data is required, you then have another important question, which is how often is this data actually needed? Sometimes data is just needed once a month for a specific report. Other times it's needed hourly. and other times it's just needed once a week. And this can be very important depending on what the answer is. In general, most data pipelining tools should work well in the hour to day long range. Of course, day long meaning that could go beyond that, but that is at least a minimum. Things like, for example, Fivetran can be set to 5-minute long increments, but that's about the limit in terms of the UI. So it is important to understand that each tool you use does have some limitations, and some tools provide you more control than others. For example, if you use an Airflow operator, which yes, Airflow in itself is an orchestration tool, but I think at the operator level, you often will find that people use it as an extract tool and a load tool and a transform tool. So I get it that it's an orchestration tool, but oftentimes people use the operators themselves to actually do the ELT or ETL work. In this case, the DAGs can be scheduled to anything that a cron scheduler could be scheduled to. So it's important you understand how often you need that data, because that changes both how your pipeline operates, as well as maybe forcing you to use a different tool if it needs to be more closely related to something that's live. Some other important questions that you should consider asking also should be framed around how often does the schema change for the underlying data. In some cases, it might only change every year or so. And in other cases, if, for example, you work at a company like Facebook, where you're directly working with tables that software engineers are constantly changing, it might change every 3 months as they're constantly running new initiatives. This causes a lot of problems and also forces you to change how the pipeline operates, which leads me to the challenges portion of this discussion. So on top of considerations, there are going to be challenges that you face while building a data pipeline, in particular, even at the extract phase. Some of those, of course, include schema changes, because if your pipeline is very restrictive and very connected to the exact column name or the exact column type, it will break depending on any small change in the schema. Also, a change in velocity or volume of data can cause major issues. So if your pipeline already takes 10, 20, an hour long to run, and now the data triples, it might now take a lot longer. And if you need that report every morning, that can cause problems. Also, depending on how often credentials change, that can also cause a lot of issues when you're extracting data. So you need to be able to manage credential information in such a way that you can easily change it without hopefully having to make code changes. So often this is in some sort of configuration setting versus directly in code, just so you don't have to make a giant code change. And of course, that doesn't even take into consideration all of the requests you're going to be getting from your analysts and data scientists for small changes to your table, pulling in new columns, changing maybe a data type, just small things that will continue to bite you from a maintenance standpoint. All of these little things, all these little changes kill your productivity in terms of making new things, and you're constantly having just to maintain old things. Now, you've got a baseline extract set up wherever it's pulling from. Again, an API, a database, whatever it might be. It possibly pulls that data into a CSV, JSON, some other popular format, Parquet, and pushes it to some sort of S3 or GSC bucket, all for you to then eventually often just load that into a raw table. Now, personally, I like loading the data into some sort of raw table because you can run data quality checks over that data very quickly to see and assess if that data has anything wrong with it. And this is a habit I kind of built up because I worked at a company where we weren't the ones doing the exact extract. We were often sent it via SFTP. And so we needed to figure out if the senders of that data sent us bad data or good data, because we had our own SLAs where we had to return a report within a certain period. And so we needed to figure out very quickly whether that data was bad or good. That way we could reach out again to our senders of data and quickly figure out what the problems were. So that's kind of why I like doing the load phase earlier, because I like checking my data faster to be more aware of any data issues earlier on in terms of my data loading, rather than waiting until the transform phase or post-transform phase to figure out if there are any data quality issues. Anything from a date not being a date, or an int not being an int, or just a general categorical change if you have category data. Any of those problems that you can figure out right away can save you a ton of time, especially if you're the one who needs to figure out that there is something wrong with it quickly, so you can reach out again to your partners to tell them, hey, there's a problem. You need to re-extract that data so we can reload it. That's why I personally do kind of like the EL process, even though I don't think it saves as much time as people assume. I think overall, it gives you that ability to access the raw data faster and in turn assess the validity of that data faster. Now, again, there are a lot of design patterns that people like to put into place in terms of like ETL versus ELT versus E small t LT or CDC, which these 4 different design patterns actually get covered in this great video, which I didn't even create. So I'm happy to kind of post about it because I thought it was great. I think ITK Fun Day puts out a lot of great content, not just on data engineering, but just in general, if you like tech. So go check out that video if you're looking more in terms of like understanding the differences with design patterns, because in these next few videos, I'm going to be focused more on tools and then digging into the exact concepts themselves. So EL, and in the next video, T, and kind of what they do, why we use them, and some challenges and considerations you need to take into consideration while doing your work as a data engineer. But hopefully this was helpful to understand the EL part of the data pipeline, especially in terms of batch processing, so you can kind of get a good understanding of why we do it and also what you need to consider when you set up your next ELT or even ETL, because a lot of the considerations cross over. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.